Hey everybody, I'm Chongo. Usually I do comics and art online. Since quarantine, I thought I would branch out, maybe try my hand at cooking, and show you a recipe of mine that I really like. It's simple, it's easy, it's mostly vegetables. It's a soup. It's a chicken barley soup, and I've fed it to a lot of people, and everyone I've ever fed it to says they really like it. So I thought I would share it. It's a little on the longer side to make, but it's not very expensive and it's not very hard. So I thought I would share it as a cooking recipe. I guess without further ado, I should show you the ingredients, what we're going to be working with, and what you'll need to cook it. It's not going to be hard. It's just going to take a little bit. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Over here. So this is our ingredients right here. So I don't know really where to start. I'm not really a chef. So we've got cabbage. I don't know if we're going to use the whole head, but let's just have a whole head just in case. 1 large onion. 2 cloves of garlic. I always feel that a good soup starts with at least 1 clove. 1 carrot. Large preferably. And I just found this out the other day when I was watching Food Network. One little thing of celery is called a rib, like a rib. So 3 ribs of celery, and then we're only going to use a little bit of canola oil for frying up the onion and the garlic. We're not going to use all this butter. Let's say we're going to use a 1/4 cup of that butter, if that, for frying. Then we got a little over 1/3 a cup of barley. I have shelled barley. It was just cheaper in bulk like that. We got some wheat. We got some liquid honey. It's just local honey that I bought, but use any old honey you got. I almost said weed. And then we just got chicken broth or chicken stock for the broth. And yeah, so that's our list of ingredients. Not too expensive, not too fancy. Oh shit! I almost forgot one thing. The chicken. We also have our chicken. I have 2 legs of chicken here. We just got them on the cheap frozen, so maybe like $4. $4 total for the chicken. Altogether, I'm not really sure how much this would all come to, but not too expensive. Alright, I'm setting the oven right now to 425 because we're gonna bake the chicken with some fried onions that we're gonna do right now. So I'm gonna take that onion we have here and start chopping it up. So yeah, let's get started with that. So I'm not a professional chef, so this is the best you're gonna get from me cutting an onion. Take off the outer layer. You might want to cut both sides. See, I am not a professional chef, so you probably noticed I didn't curl my knuckles there, and I didn't cut right, and all this nonsense. You're probably going to see me hurt myself with this channel at least once or twice. Never said I was a chef. Never said I was a chef. Yeah, so I'm just peeling this onion the best I can. Probably going to get a lot of people telling me I'm peeling it wrong, and I'm not doing it right, and that I wasted so much onion, so I'm sorry in advance. You're right, I'm wrong. I just wanted to show you how to make my soup. So I cut them in half, lay them flat, and then I sort of score them. Well, yeah, I was gonna dice them, but this is for my soup recipe. So we're just gonna quarter them because we need them chunky so they'll fry up better. Now I should be doing this and keeping it in camera, but I am first video, so. Here are my quartered onions, and those are gonna look great in my soup. Alright, so we're gonna break apart the onions, and then we're going to caramelize them as best we can in the bottom of the soup pot to get a nice flavor for the broth, and then we're gonna transfer them over to this so that we can fill it up with the chicken, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of honey, and go from there. I think it's going to be really fun, and it's going to be really tasty. Oh, great. There's my focus. There's my focus. Yay! Oh boy. If you're frying them on too high of a heat like I often do, it's okay to put a little bit of butter in just to keep the onions liquidized. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to stir it in, and hopefully it'll be a little bit better. Alright, so I fried down the onions to a level I think is good. Maybe some more than others, but, you know, that's the thing about quartering them. They're not all going to be perfect. But that's okay, because we're going to be putting them in the oven next. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put half of these onions on the bottom of this tray. Then I'm going to cover it with the chicken. And then I'm going to cover it with the rest of the onions. So it's going to look a little something like the next picture I'm going to show you once you have it ready. Now here's the fun part. What we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of this honey and we are just going to drizzle a little bit onto the bottom layer of those onions. There we go. I licked the rest of the honey off. Alright, so now that we have our chicken laid upon our bed of honey and onion, we're going to take the rest of the onions, put it on top with a little bit more honey, and then also about, I don't know, I'm a garlic fiend, so I always put way too much garlic in, but I'd say about half a thing of garlic, so like half the cloves on a single thing of garlic. And then we're gonna dump that all in here, and we're gonna put that on 425 for about, I do an hour to an hour and a half. So once I get this all prepared, I'll put it in the oven for you, show you how it looks. And here we are. So this is what we're gonna be putting in there. So basically we've got a layer of onions and honey, and then that's gonna have the chicken that I seasoned with salt and pepper between it, and then another layer of onions, honey, and then finally the garlic with a little bit more pepper, just because that's how I like it. So what we got now is a 425 degree oven. We're gonna set it in there for at least an hour and a half, but I like to do 2 hours. So into the oven it goes on the bottom rack, and while that's going on, I'm gonna give you some recommendations for what to do for 2 hours on a quarantine. I got some choices in music, I got some choices in video games, and I got a choice in a movie. So I'm going to tell you all three, see which one you want to pick. So one of my favorite bands, Igor, with 3 R's, just put out one of their latest albums, Spirituality and Distortion. Before then, I had heard Igor's album Nostril, and I had heard Hallelujah, which became shortly one of my favorite albums of all time. I can't express how creative and flowing and genre-bending Igor truly is. One moment will be French polka with metal, the next will be operatics with metal, the next will be this. It seems that there's no bounds to the differences of genre that Igor can blend with metal, and in such interesting ways. I don't want to spoil any of his music because I do feel that the first time you listen to his music is really important. So, one of my recommendations for quarantine music would be Spirituality and Distortion. It's free on YouTube right now. It's about an hour to listen to, and if you really like his music, check out more. Anyways, I want to move on to some of my other recommendations. So, let's move on to my video game recommendations. Thank you. So, this is Hellpoint. This is a demo that I found on Steam for what seems to be a sci-fi Dark Souls-inspired hack and slash. It has a really interesting design, it has some really flowing combat, and as somebody who's played the Dark Souls series for probably a collective 1,000 hours, and collective 1,000 more in every other Dark Souls lookalike and wannabe that's ever come out, this is the one I actually kind of like. It's fun, it's got its own thing going on, the art design is really fresh, and there's just really nothing out there like it right now. So I say if you're in the mood for something that's a lot like Dark Souls and can get you through some hard times right now, I say check out Hellpoint. Let's see here. I'm just gonna... Okay, yeah. Oh, alrighty, and then for my film review, I think that if I could choose anything for anyone to watch under the quarantine right now, especially if you're a horror fan, you should watch Antiviral by Brandon Cronenberg, son of David Cronenberg, and his debut movie. One of the scariest, most subtle things I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know if I can really give much away. If you are really interested in my Yeah, I got mush mouth right now. If you are interested in my recommendation, you should look at the trailer for Antiviral. It could do so much more for you than I could ever tell you in person or on film. So, hopefully you'll check it out. Alright, so we got a little less than 45 minutes left on the timer here for our baked chicken. So what I'm doing is I'm heating up where we cook the onions in the pan on medium high heat. So I took the liberty of cutting up our 3 ribs of celery, our 1 carrot, and the rest of that garlic. So I'm going to throw the garlic in first, and we're going to sear it up, and then we're going to throw the veggies in with it, and that's how we're going to start our broth. So let's get to it. Now the garlic itself isn't going to take too long. In fact, it's only going to take a minute or so. So you're just going to want to let it go until you have a fragrance in the air. Like you can smell it cooking. And then once you have that smell of it cooking, you're going to want to start to dump in that carrots and the celery. So we're going to do that right now. Hold it one-handed. Hopefully it works. Oh, skills. Dang, okay. So now you're just going to want to let that fry up a little bit. And that's where we're going to bring in the butter. So, maybe a teaspoonful, or tablespoonful. Yeah, there we go. Just going to want to mix that all in. And it's going to fry together, and that's going to be the base of our soup. Or the broth, at least. Oh god, my fingers are too oily to turn off the camera. Oh good lord. Somebody help me please. Alright, so now everything's gotten a little bit of color in it. The celery's gotten a bit translucent. Now you might be thinking, as you're cooking this, wow, that really smells like garlic. It's really strong. But you're going to want that for all this cabbage that you've cut up, because the cabbage is going to be what holds this soup all together. It's going to be vegetables, and it's going to taste like noodles once it soaks up all that broth. I really love it. It's my favorite part about this dish. So now that we got everything a little bit charred, a little bit colorful, and smelling really strong of garlic, this is when we're going to throw in all that cabbage. Now, I'm going to do that off screen because I can't do it holding a camera. Now this may look like a lot of cabbage, but I did put the whole head in, and the thing you're going to want to think about is, once this cooks down and sweats off a bit, this is going to come down quite a bit, so we're going to have a lot more room for our other ingredients, our carrots, our celery, our chicken, and eventually that barley, and that's going to be a lot out of what little we put in, and it's going to taste great. So don't worry if it looks like it's going to be too much, just wait until it cooks down a bit, and it'll be fine. All you're going to want to do is brown it a little bit in here. So just crisp it up, just get a little bit of that heat out, and once that's ready, we're going to put in the water and the chicken stock for the broth. So I'll come back to that in a second. Alright, so it has cooked down quite a bit, like quite a bit. They're more noodly-like in structure, they're a little bit more rubbery. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take 4 cups of water and about 4 teaspoons of the chicken stock, and that's going to put together into the chicken broth, and we're going to see how fast we can get that to boil. And then, hopefully, in less than half an hour, our chicken will be ready and out. And bam! We are on our way to having chicken barley soup. Alrighty, as you can see, I put 4 normal-sized teaspoons of that chicken broth powder on there, and I'm going to put 4 cups of this water into my vegetable mixture here. So, I'm going to now turn that up just so I can get it to a boil faster. And once it's at a boil, we're going to want to let it simmer down. Now, it's looking pretty thick here, so I'm thinking maybe I added a little too much cabbage, and that's okay. Maybe we're just going to make a bigger soup then. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more ratio of broth. I'm going to start with 1 more tablespoon and then 1 more cup. So we're going to see how that adds. See you in a second. So it turns out I actually needed to add 3 more cups of water and 3 more teaspoons of that broth powder. But that's okay. It's going to be okay. Okay, so the timer just went off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it on up. Ooh, you can hear it sizzling in there. And that's a little more black than I would have liked. Gosh darn it. Well, the chickens fall off the bone, delicious and just infused with all that onion and honey. But the only problem is, all that onion and honey I was going to use to flavor the soup now is so burnt. But it's not the end of the world, and it's not the end of this video. So I'm going to make a quick compromise, and I'll show you what I'm going to do soon. Alright, so now we gotta pour the honey back into this batch and then quickly stir it in. It's not gonna be like how we baked it, but it's gonna be pretty dang close. So let's give it a try. Alright, now I'm just gonna give it a little stir, and after a few seconds here, it's going to be all liquidy. So let's just put her right the heck into the soup. Once we feel it's reached a nice level. Mind my finger in the view there. Once again, not a professional chef, not a professional set. I just like to cook. Alright, I think that's good. So, take it up. Ta-da! Right into the fray of things. Okay, so we've taken the bones out of our chicken, we've put the barley and the onions into the soup, so don't worry about de-chunking it or, cutting it up too much. Do worry about that skin that sticks to the bottom, though. You're going to want that. It's super yummy. Super yummy. Don't know how to use words. Just stir that all in, and then now that you have the barley in there, all you're going to want to do is make sure that gets a nice 30 to 40 minutes on the stove. And if you feel like there's not enough broth, just add a little bit more water. It's going to be pretty thick and flavorful already. Alright, and about 30 minutes later, I added a little bit more honey, and I just kept stirring so I could get the barley all cooked up and the chicken all shredded nice. So that's what it's going to look like. It's going to have a nice dark color to the broth. Let me try to get that broth by itself here. It's not easy with this tiny little spoon, but if you can see, it's pretty dark. So I bowled myself up here, and I'm going to switch camera view and see how it tastes. Alright, here we are. It's pretty piping hot. I don't think I can get into camera there, but you got a good view of it. So, wow, yeah, you can get a lot of everything in every bite. You can get the celery, you can get the chicken, you can get the cabbage, you can get all the barley you want. Like, this is a really hearty soup, and you're gonna get everything you want in every bite. So, try not to burn myself on a very photogenic bite. Yeah, the cabbage really soaked up the chicken flavor, so it's basically like cabbage noodles. Awesome. I really like that. Oh, so good. Alright, so that came out well, in my opinion. I hope you guys try it out, make it yourself, tweak it however you want. If you like the recipe after you ate it, give it a like. If you didn't, dislike this video. I want some honest feedback on this. Comment whatever you want. Tell me what you thought about the recipe. Tell me what you thought about the video. If I should change or do or not, anything. Hopefully you like my recommendations too for film and music and video games. 3 of my favorite things to do. So, thanks again, everybody. Hopefully you subscribe. If you don't, I understand, but this is some pretty good soup, and I'm going to be eating this for quite a bit. Cheers!